The message arrived on a Tuesday. At first, the radio astronomers at the Arecibo facility thought it was a mistake, a clear, structured signal coming from somewhere near the Pleiades star cluster. After 3 days of verification, Dr. Olivia Stone confirmed what everyone both hoped and feared. Humanity had received its first alien communication. "It's definitely artificial," she said, brushing her blonde hair away from tired eyes. "And they're definitely talking to us." Within hours, the United Nations called an emergency session. World leaders gathered while the best linguists on Earth worked to decode the message. It took 2 weeks, but finally they understood. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Consortium, and they were inviting Earth to join something called the Tablev. Jack Miller sat nervously as the president named him Earth's first ambassador to an alien civilization. At 45, with salt and pepper hair and 20 years of diplomatic experience, he was the logical choice. But logic didn't calm the butterflies in his stomach. "This is the greatest moment in human history," the president told him privately. "Don't mess it up." 3 months later, Ambassador Miller led a 12-person delegation aboard the consortium vessel that arrived in Earth orbit. Dr. Stone joined as the scientific advisor, along with military officers, linguists, and cultural experts. The ship was massive and silent, its hull shimmering like oil on water. "Welcome, humans," said the alien representative, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like polished copper. "I am Coordinator Eltz. You honor us with your presence." The journey to the Tablev took 9 days. The humans spent most of it learning about the consortium, a union of 37 spacefaring species who govern most of the explored galaxy. The Tablev itself was their meeting place, a massive space station where trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange happened. "All species are equal at the Tablev," Eltz explained. His words came through a small device attached to his neck. "These translators will help you understand all species you meet." When they arrived, the human delegation gasped collectively. The Tablev was enormous, a spinning wheel of metal and light larger than Manhattan. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked along its outer ring. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Stone. "It is home," replied Eltz. But the wonder quickly faded. As they toured the station, Jack noticed how aliens stared at them. Not with respect, but with curiosity, like animals in a zoo. During their first official meeting, the humans were seated far from the central table. "This doesn't feel right," Jack whispered to Olivia. That night, as Dr. Stone examined the translator device they had each been given, she made a disturbing discovery. The device wasn't just translating. It was scanning thoughts, recording conversations, and transmitting everything back to central consortium databases. "They're watching everything we do," she told Jack in the privacy of her quarters, after sweeping for listening devices. "Everything we say, everything we think if we're wearing these things." Jack felt cold anger rising. Why would they need that level of surveillance? The answer came the next morning when they met with the Consortium Council. The 7-member ruling body explained that all new species required guidance and monitoring to ensure they didn't disrupt galactic harmony. "It's for your protection," said High Counselor Vrix, a floating jellyfish-like creature. "All species accept this." Jack stood up. "Humans value our privacy. We cannot accept constant monitoring." The room went silent. The council members looked at each other in what seemed like shock. "That is not a choice available to you," Vrix finally said. "The translators are mandatory for all Tablev participants." When Jack and Olivia tried to return to their quarters to discuss options, they found armed guards blocking their way. "For your safety," one guard said, "the human delegation will remain in your assigned area until you better understand our customs." Jack looked at Olivia, whose face had gone pale. "We're prisoners," she whispered. "No," Jack replied quietly. "We're just the first humans to learn what the galaxy is really like." Outside their window, the endless stars seemed suddenly cold and threatening. 6 months passed since first contact. Earth had joined the Tablev, but not by choice. After the human delegation was detained, the consortium sent a fleet of ships to orbit Earth. Their message was clear: join or face consequences. World leaders reluctantly agreed, and now every human diplomat wore the translator implants. Commander Sam Porter stared at the small device on his desk. At 38, with a square jaw and steady hands, he had spent his career in naval intelligence. Now he led a secret team studying the alien technology. "Have you found anything new?" he asked. Lisa Winters looked up from her computer. Her red hair was tied back, dark circles under her eyes showing she hadn't slept in days. "I think I have," she said quietly. "There's a pattern in the transmission protocol. A flaw." Sam leaned forward. "What kind of flaw?" "Every 12 hours, the device resets its connection for exactly 3.8 seconds. During that time, it's vulnerable." This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. If they could exploit that weakness, they might be able to talk without the consortium listening in. Across town, retired General Frank Garcia met with Kate Hughes in a small coffee shop. They appeared to be old friends catching up, but their real purpose was far more serious. "The resistance is growing," Kate whispered, pretending to sip her coffee. "People are angry about the implants." Frank nodded. "We've got cells forming in 30 countries now, but we need a way to communicate safely." "I heard Porter's team is making progress," Kate replied. 2 weeks later, Sam Porter's team had their answer. Lisa had created a small device that could temporarily disable the surveillance function without alerting the consortium. "It works by sending a blocking signal during the reset period," Lisa explained. "We can get about 5 minutes of safe talk before we need to stop." "5 minutes is enough," Sam said, smiling for the first time in months. The devices were secretly manufactured and distributed to resistance leaders worldwide. Humans began having real conversations again, planning and organizing without alien ears listening. At the tableau, Jack Miller played his part perfectly. He attended meetings, followed protocols, and appeared to be the model representative, all while gathering information about how the consortium operated. One night, he received a secure message from Earth using Lisa's technology. "We're ready to make our move," the message read. "The consortium hasn't figured out what we're doing. We need you to arrange a meeting with any alien species who might be sympathetic." Jack knew this was dangerous, but he also knew which aliens seemed uncomfortable with consortium rules. The Merid were an old species who often questioned the Council. The Vostok were fierce believers in individual rights. The Taurine were new to the table of like humans, but already showing signs of discontent. He arranged a private dinner in his quarters, claiming it was a human cultural exchange. When the representatives arrived, Dr. Stone activated Lisa's jamming device. "We have 5 minutes," Jack said. "So I'll be direct. Humans reject consortium surveillance, and we're not alone, are we?" The aliens looked at each other in silence. Finally, the Merid representative spoke. "We have endured this for centuries," she said, her voice like rustling leaves. "The consortium watches all, controls all. On my world," the Vostok added, "there was resistance once. It was eliminated." Jack leaned forward. "What if there was a way to block the surveillance? My people have found a method." The alien's eyes widened. This was unheard of, impossible. "If you speak truth," the Taurine said, "many would join you." Meanwhile on Earth, the resistance grew stronger each day. In hidden rooms and underground facilities, humans prepared. They trained. They built ships based on technology they had gleaned from the consortium. Lisa worked tirelessly to improve her blocking technology, aiming to extend it from minutes to hours, from personal devices to entire buildings. "We're not ready for open rebellion," Frank told his officers, "but we're getting closer." "What happens when the consortium realizes what we're doing?" someone asked. Kate Hughes smiled grimly. "By then, it will be too late." As Sam Porter left the meeting, he looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, alien ships watched, but they couldn't see everything. Not anymore. The tableau shimmered with light as dignitaries from across the galaxy gathered for the annual summit. This event was the most important meeting of the Galactic Consortium, where major decisions were made and new policies announced. Chris Martinez adjusted his tie nervously. At 35, he was the youngest human representative, chosen for his powerful speaking abilities. Today, he would deliver a speech that would change everything. "Are you ready?" Jack whispered. Chris nodded. "Everyone on Earth is counting on us." In orbit around the tableau, 3 small ships waited silently. Commander Porter sat in the lead vessel, watching the station through special cameras. His team of 20 Special Forces soldiers checked their gear one last time. "Lisa, status?" Sam asked through his secure comm. From her position in the station's lower levels, Lisa Winters monitored her equipment. She had spent the last 3 weeks secretly installing her devices throughout the tableau. "All systems ready," she replied, waiting for the signal. Inside the Great Hall, the summit began. High Administrator Klovax, a tall being with gray skin and 6 eyes, welcomed the attendees. One by one, representatives from various worlds gave short speeches about unity and progress. When Chris Martinez's turn came, he walked to the center of the platform. The translator device on his neck felt heavy. He took a deep breath. "Friends, colleagues, members of the consortium," he began. "Humans are honored to be part of this great gathering." The audience watched politely. No one expected what would come next. "For thousands of years, my people have valued one thing above all others: freedom," Chris continued, his voice growing stronger. "The freedom to think our own thoughts, the freedom to speak without being monitored, the freedom to live without constant surveillance." Murmurs spread through the crowd. This was not the usual diplomatic talk. "Today, I stand before you to declare that humanity cannot and will not accept a system that watches our every move, records our every word, and monitors our every thought." High Administrator Klovax stood abruptly. "This is not appropriate for." "Now, Lisa," Jack said into his hidden communicator. Lisa pressed the activation button. All across the station, her devices switched on simultaneously. For the first time in centuries, the tableau went dark to consortium surveillance. Confusion spread through the hall. Security officers reached for their weapons, but didn't know who to target. "All translator devices are temporarily disabled," Chris announced loudly. "For these few minutes, we can all speak freely without the consortium listening." Outside, Sam Porter's team docked their ships at 3 different points. They moved quickly through the halls, heading toward the human section and other predetermined locations. Several alien representatives stood up in support of Chris. A married diplomat shouted, "He speaks truth. We have endured this too long." Security forces began moving toward the platform, but found their path blocked by Vostok representatives. "We stand with the humans," the lead Vostok declared. Meanwhile, Sam's team reached their targets. Half went to extract the human delegation, while the others moved to help alien allies who had secretly arranged to leave with them. 2 minutes until systems reset, Lisa warned over the comm. In the Great Hall, chaos reigned. Some species called for order, while others openly argued with consortium officials. Chris finished his speech with words that would be remembered for generations. "Today, Earth formally withdraws from the tableau. We invite any who share our values to join us in building something better, something based on trust, not surveillance." Security alarms finally activated. Jack grabbed Chris's arm. "Time to go." They rushed from the hall, meeting Sam's team in the corridor. Together, they ran toward the docking bay, joined by representatives from 7 different species. "Lisa, where are you?" Sam called desperately. "On my way," she replied, running from her station. 30 seconds until surveillance comes back online. As they reached the ships, consortium guards opened fire. A Taurine diplomat fell, wounded. Sam helped him aboard while Jack covered their retreat. "Everyone in now," Sam shouted. The ships detached just as the station's systems began to reset. The consortium was about to see exactly what had happened. But by then, the ships were already accelerating away from the tableau. "We did it," Jack said quietly. But they all knew this was just the beginning. The real fight had only just started. News of what happened at the tableau spread quickly across the galaxy. The consortium tried to control the story, calling it a minor incident caused by primitive humans. But the truth traveled faster than their lies. Earth faced immediate consequences. The consortium cut off all trade routes to the solar system. Their ships formed a blockade, preventing any vessels from entering or leaving. They sent messages to all their member worlds. Anyone who deals with humans will face severe punishment. In the White House Situation Room, world leaders gathered around large screens. Jack Miller stood before them, still wearing the same suit from his escape 3 days earlier. "The consortium is angry, but also afraid," he explained. "What we did has never happened before. No species has ever left the tableau." President Harris rubbed her tired eyes. "What are our options?" General Garcia stepped forward. "We need to prepare for possible attack. Every nation must contribute to a unified defense force." "Defense won't be enough," Kate Hughes added. "We need allies." As if answering her words, a communication officer burst into the room. "Sir, we're receiving signals from multiple non-consortium sources. They want to talk to us." Over the next few days, Earth received secret messages from 12 different alien species. Some had representatives who escaped with the humans. Others had watched the events from afar. All expressed the same sentiment. The humans had done what they had only dreamed of doing. Dr. Stone worked day and night with a team of scientists, including aliens who had come with them from the tableau. They studied the translator devices, looking for ways to improve Lisa's blocking technology. "If we can extend the disruption from minutes to days," Olivia explained to the president, "we could protect entire planets from surveillance." Meanwhile, Commander Porter established a network of early warning stations throughout the solar system. Using technology shared by their new alien allies, humans could now detect consortium ships long before they arrived. "They'll come eventually," Sam told his officers. "We need to be ready." On the tableau, High Administrator Klovax called an emergency meeting of the Consortium Council. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. "The human rebellion must be crushed completely," he declared. "If other species believe they can leave the tableau, our entire system will collapse." The Council voted unanimously to assemble a punishment fleet. Hundreds of warships began to gather. Back on Earth, Lisa Winters made a breakthrough. Working with Merritt and Vostok scientists, she developed a new device that could not only block surveillance but could send false information instead. "We can make them see what we want them to see," she explained to Jack and Sam. "They'll think we're still wearing their devices, still following their rules." This news gave Earth hope. For the first time, they had a real advantage against the consortium's all-seeing eyes. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Kate Hughes met with representatives from 3 alien species who had openly broken from the consortium to join Earth. "We need a name," said the Merritt ambassador. "Something to represent our alliance." "How about the Free Coalition?" Kate suggested. The aliens liked it. Papers were signed, making the alliance official. That evening, as the sun set over Colorado, Jack Miller stood outside the facility, looking at the stars. Dr. Stone joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked quietly. "Starting this conflict?" Jack shook his head. "We didn't start it. It began the moment they decided everyone in the galaxy should be watched and controlled." Above them, the first ships of Earth's new defense fleet conducted training exercises. They were smaller than consortium vessels, but faster and equipped with technology no one thought humans would have access to. "They're watching us right now," Olivia said, pointing to the sky, planning their attack. "Let them come," Jack replied. "This time, we'll be ready." 1 year had passed since Earth left the tableau. The Free Coalition had grown stronger, with 4 main species working together: humans, Merid, Vostok, and Taurine each brought different skills to the Alliance. Carol West stepped off her shuttle onto the surface of a small, unnamed moon. At 40, with dark skin and sharp eyes, she had once been a top UN negotiator. Now she was Earth's chief diplomat to their alien allies. "Welcome, friend Carol," said Zinn, the Merid representative. Tall and plant-like, he swayed gently in the thin atmosphere. "Thank you for arranging this meeting," Carol replied. Inside a hidden base beneath the moon's surface, representatives from all 4 species gathered around a large table. They spoke without translator devices, instead using a simple language they had created together. "The consortium grows more angry each day," said Tark, the muscular Vostok commander. "Our spies report they have completed building 50 new warships." "We have made progress too," Carol said. "Our combined fleet now has 120 ships." But numbers weren't everything. The consortium had thousands of vessels at their command. The Free Coalition needed something more to survive. "The key is the surveillance system," said Dr. Stone, who had joined the meeting. "If we can blind them completely, we gain a huge advantage." Lisa Winters had been working on exactly that. For months, she had led a team developing what they called the anti-surveillance shield. It could protect not just individuals, but entire ships and eventually planets from the consortium's watching eyes. "The prototype is ready," Lisa reported. "We've tested it on 3 ships so far." Meanwhile, Richard Daniels was taking a much more dangerous approach. A former thief before joining Earth's intelligence service, he had infiltrated a consortium facility on a distant moon. Dressed as a maintenance worker, he moved through the corridors, carefully avoiding security. His target was the central planning room. The consortium believed their security was perfect, so they didn't expect anyone could physically break in. That was their mistake. Richard placed a small device under a desk and activated it. For 3 hours, it would record everything said in that room. When he returned to the Coalition base 2 days later, the information he brought was alarming. "They're coming," he told the gathered leaders. "The punishment fleet is almost ready. 300 ships headed straight for Earth." General Garcia studied the data. "We have 1 month, maybe less. Then we need to accelerate our plans," Jack Miller said. He had become the unofficial leader of the Coalition, respected by all species. Earth's defenses were as ready as they could be. Every major city had underground shelters. The fleet positioned ships throughout the solar system. But would it be enough? Lisa's team worked day and night to finish the shield technology. If they could deploy it in time, they might have a chance. "We need to install it on every ship," she explained. "And we're working on a larger version that could cover much of Earth." The Merid contributed their biological technology, growing special plants that could absorb certain types of energy weapons. The Vostok shared their advanced armor designs. The Taurine, masters of speed and maneuverability, trained human pilots. One evening, as the Coalition leaders finished their planning, Carol West looked around the table. "A year ago, none of us knew the others existed," she said. "Now we're fighting together for freedom." Jack nodded. The consortium never understood this could happen. They watched everything we did, but they never understood what makes humans different. "What is that?" asked Zinn. "We've always been willing to risk everything for freedom," Jack answered. "And now you are too." As they spoke, the consortium punishment fleet completed its final preparations. High Administrator Klovax gave the order to launch. "Bring the humans back to the Tablev," he commanded, "or destroy them completely." The fleet moved into formation, hundreds of warships beginning their journey toward Earth. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Red lights flashed throughout Earth's defense network. The long-range sensors detected what everyone had been dreading. The consortium punishment fleet had entered the outer solar system. 327 ships, reported the sensor officer, heading directly for Earth. In the command center beneath Geneva, General Garcia stood before a large holographic display. Representatives from all coalition species watched as the enemy fleet moved steadily closer. "All defense stations report ready," Sam Porter announced. "Lisa's shield technology has been installed on 90% of our vessels." General Garcia nodded. "Then it's time. Launch the fleet." All across the solar system, ships rose from hidden bases on the Moon, Mars, and several asteroids. Human vessels flew alongside myriad biological ships, Vostok armored cruisers, and the swift Taurine scouts. Together, they formed a defensive line near the orbit of Mars. On board the coalition flagship, Jack Miller watched the approaching enemy. "They still think we're just primitive humans with a few alien supporters," he said to Dr. Stone. "They have no idea what we've built." The consortium fleet slowed as they detected the defenders. High Commander Zrel, a veteran of many enforcement actions, was surprised at the number of ships facing him. "It seems the humans have been busy," he said to his officers. "No matter. Our forces are superior in every way." What he didn't know was that his every word was being heard by the coalition. Richard Daniels had planted listening devices on several key consortium vessels during his infiltration missions. "They're splitting into 3 attack groups," Richard reported from his monitoring station. "Just as we predicted." General Garcia smiled grimly. "Then let's welcome them properly." As the consortium fleet approached, they transmitted their demand: return to the table and submit to proper monitoring, or face destruction. Jack Miller sent a simple reply: "No." The battle began with a massive energy barrage from the consortium ships. Their weapons were designed to overwhelm any defense with sheer power, but as the energy blasts approached the coalition line, something unexpected happened. Lisa's shield technology activated. Most of the enemy fire simply disappeared, absorbed by the invisible barrier around the human and allied ships. "Impossible," shouted Commander Zrel. "Increase power to all weapons." The consortium ships fired again, but with similar results. Meanwhile, the smaller coalition vessels darted forward, firing their own weapons at specific points on the enemy ships, points the Vostok had identified as weaknesses. In Earth orbit, KQ sat before a communication array. The moment had come for her part in the plan. She activated a special transmitter that Lisa had built, one powerful enough to reach every ship in the consortium fleet simultaneously. "Attention all consortium vessels," Kate began. "What your leaders have not told you is that Earth left the table because we discovered the truth about your government." The message continued, showing evidence of consortium atrocities, corruption, and lies. It included testimony from dozens of species who had suffered under their rule. Most importantly, it revealed how the surveillance system was used not for security, but for control. On several consortium ships, crews began to question their orders. 3 vessels broke formation and moved away from the battle. Commander Zrel frantically tried to block the transmission. "Ignore this propaganda," he ordered. "Continue the attack." The battle raged across the orbit of Mars. Coalition ships took damage, but their shields held against the worst of it. The myriad biological ships released clouds of spores that attached to enemy vessels, disrupting their systems. Taurine scouts darted between larger ships, drawing fire and creating confusion. On the flagship, Jack watched as more consortium ships began to hesitate. Some even turned their weapons on other consortium vessels that tried to force them back into formation. "It's working," he said quietly. Dr. Stone nodded. "Freedom is contagious." After 6 hours of intense fighting, Commander Zrel faced a difficult truth. His fleet was in disarray. 27 ships had defected. Dozens more were damaged or destroyed. The remainder were pulling back, refusing to continue what now seemed like an unjust attack. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "Return to tablet space immediately." As the consortium ships turned and accelerated away from Earth, cheers erupted throughout the coalition fleet. They had won the first major battle against the most powerful force in the galaxy. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. 3 months after the Great Battle, ships from 27 different species arrived in Earth orbit. They came not as enemies, but as guests. Each one had broken away from the consortium after learning the truth. On a clear spring day, the new Galactic Conference opened in the rebuilt United Nations building in New York. Representatives from all these worlds gathered to create something new, a true alliance based on respect and freedom. Jack Miller stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse gathering. His face carried new scars from the battle, but his eyes were bright with hope. Today marks the beginning of a new era, he began, not just for humans, but for all free species. In the front row sat Dr. Olivia Stone, Commander Sam Porter, Lisa Winters, and all the others who had helped make this moment possible. Next to them were their alien allies, Zin of the Merid, Tark of the Vostok, and representatives from many other worlds. We propose a new agreement, Jack continued. The Sol Accords, named after our sun. Its first principle is simple. No species may monitor or surveil another without clear consent. The room erupted in applause. For many of these beings, this represented freedom they had never known before. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the consortium faced its greatest crisis. More species left the table of each day. Their once mighty fleet was reduced to a fraction of its former strength as ships defected or simply returned to their homeworlds. High Administrator Klovax had been removed from power. The remaining consortium leaders desperately tried to maintain control, but their system was built on constant surveillance. Without it, their authority crumbled. Back on Earth, Carol West worked tirelessly with representatives from all allied species to draft the full Sol Accords. It contained 52 articles covering everything from trade to cultural exchange, but the core remained the same: freedom from unwanted monitoring. I never thought I'd see anything like this, Carol told Kate Hughes as they watched delegates signing the final document. So many different beings, all working together. Humans have always dreamed of meeting aliens, Kate replied. We just never expected we'd end up leading a galactic revolution. 1 month later, a bold plan was put into action. A combined fleet of coalition ships approached the Tablev station. They came not to attack, but with a different purpose. Inside the station, confusion and fear spread among the remaining consortium officials. They had lost control of most surveillance systems and couldn't be sure who was watching whom anymore. When Jack Miller walked into the main council chamber, flanked by representatives from 12 species, no one tried to stop him. The Tablev was built as a place for species to meet and work together, Jack announced. Today, we reclaim it for that purpose. Engineers from Earth and allied worlds moved throughout the station, dismantling surveillance equipment. Each piece was brought to the central plaza and publicly destroyed in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. Lisa Winters supervised the technical work. We're not just removing their systems, she explained to a group of newly freed beings. We're installing jammers that will prevent any new surveillance from working here. Dr. Stone worked with scientists from many worlds to establish a new research institute on the Tablev. Their first project, developing technology to detect and block unwanted monitoring of any kind. We'll make sure no one can ever build another system like the consortium's, she promised. As the transformation of the Tablev neared completion, Jack Miller and Sam Porter stood by a large window, looking out at the stars. What do you think happens next? Sam asked. Jack smiled. We explore, we learn, we build something better than what came before. And we do it without anyone watching over our shoulders, Sam added. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under constant surveillance for centuries began to experience true freedom. Many struggled with this new reality at first, but they were learning, just as humans had always known, that privacy was worth fighting for. In the end, it wasn't superior technology or military might that defeated the consortium. It was the simple human insistence that some things should remain unseen, some thoughts unmonitored, some conversations private. And that was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.